found another body.
Stream the best of British crime drama only on BritBox. Don't miss new seasons of acclaimed series like Blue Lights, which Time Out calls Belfast's answer to The Wire.
Back up, over!
And The Responder, starring Martin Freeman in his international Emmy award-winning role.
I can feel it. I'm going to crack.
Stream the best of British crime drama on BritBox.
You know, this is why I want to be a detective.
Watch with a free trial today.
It's common knowledge that after age 30, our metabolism changes.
I'm Chuck Norris. I tried everything. Working with a team of health experts, we came up with Morning Kick.
Morning Kick has probiotics to help you lose weight, prebiotics for digestion, and powerful anti-aging supplements. Go to roundhouseprovisions.com, use code SAVE, or text SAVE to 511-511 and claim 40% off. SAVE to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
WICC News, I'm Melissa Sheketoff. A new milestone today for your favorite radio station. Just shy of its 98th birthday, WICC is now venturing to a second signal, making it even easier to access our local shows. 600 AM will continue, but now you can also access WICC on 95.9 FM, formerly known as The Fox. 7 people were rescued from a boat sinking in Long Island Sound off the coast of Bridgeport this weekend. The Bridgeport Fire Marine Unit was dispatched to a 32-foot boat that was taking on water. 5 of the 7 people were safely evacuated, while the other 2 remained on board to make sure the vessel was towed to shore safely. And a section of Route 67 in Oxford that was washed out during last month's historic flooding has reopened. Oxford Public Schools are expected to resume classes starting this Thursday, September 5th. Sponsored by Bridgelight Financial Advisors, you can reduce the taxes you pay on your retirement income and keep the money you have saved with Bridgelight Financial Advisors tax saving strategies. Learn more at bridgelightadvisors.com. I'm Melissa Sheketoff, WICC News.
It's time for stimulating talk. Time for thought-provoking conversation. Time for the Lisa Wexler Show. Turn on your brain and get the real scoop on today's topics and events. Here is Lisa Wexler.
Hola, bola. Welcome to the show today. And you can call in at 203-333-9422. I'm going to sing it for you. It's the WICC call letters. You can call me at 203-333-9422. I'm Lisa Wexler. Welcome to the Lisa Wexler Show. For the next couple of hours, those of you who are tuning in for the first day, 95.9, hello and welcome. We're delighted to have you come to the party. We are a community in the Lisa Wexler Show for 2 hours a day, sort of a magazine where we talk about everything that we think is important in our world, everything from, yes, politics, but also nature, science, medicine, culture, theater, because it's a big world. It's a big world, and you and I like to take a big bite out of it. Today on the show, we have a really good show for you. We have Senator Richard Blumenthal coming up at 11:05, right after the top of the news, CBS News at the top of the hour. We have Tom Dudchik, who is the founder, editor, all hail in chief to ctcapitalreport.com, which is the go-to news aggregate site for print media in Connecticut. And I'm also up there as one of the people that he suggests people go to for podcasts. That's Tom Dudchik at 10:30. And at 11:30, Martha Zala will be joining us. She's a Southern gal. She's a conservative Republican from WDUN in Georgia with a really insightful view of elections, particularly in the purple state of Georgia. And one of the top 100 most influential talk show hosts in the country. 203-333-9422 is our number. So I really want to begin with a story. Well, there's a lot going on. In Connecticut world, I think the top story is once again having to do with our utility rates. On Friday afternoon, so let me just back up a little bit. Marissa Gillette is the chairwoman of PURA, which is the Public Utility Regulatory Authority. And we've been really blessed and lucky to get to know Marissa personally because she has been on the show exclusively with us one Wednesday a month for, I think it's 2 years now. It's at least 2 years. And so we have gotten to know her and her positions, and we have taken a particular targeted focus on utility rates and the increases in utility rates. And if you look at your bill, you will see that there has been a clamor and a cry because our utility rates absolutely skyrocketed in July. July was a particularly hot month, so those of us who use air conditioning got that bite as well. But there's another element of our bill called the public benefits section that is much greater than it used to be, and that is a result of a decision that was made by our legislature years ago in order to bail out the Millstone nuclear power plant, which had some financial issues and which supplies power not only to Connecticut, but also to New Hampshire and Massachusetts. But our legislature made a decision that public benefit, that cost of bailing out Millstone needed to be borne by all the utility ratepayers. And what happened is the piper came to pay this year in the public benefits section. Prior to that, however, PURA had looked at this. They knew it was coming. And they made a decision 2-1 that the amount of money should be passed over a period of 10 months. In other words, we should pay it as ratepayers, but over a period of 10 months. The dissenting voice, was the chairwoman, Marissa Gillette herself. And she felt that 10 months was too squished a time. She looked at the numbers and she said that ratepayers, you and I, were going to feel it terribly badly. And because we were going to feel it, it was going to be so painful. She suggested that it be spread out over 22 months instead of 10 months. And even though as ratepayers, we would have ended up paying a little bit more money, because when you spread something out over time, like with interest payments, you pay more money over time. She felt that it would be an easier burden for Connecticut taxpayers and ratepayers. Okay. She lost. And after July's bills came in, there was a hue and a cry and a clamor, so much so bipartisan. The Republicans made it a big political deal. But even the Democrats, Norm Needleman and Jonathan Steinberg, who were together state senator and state rep that head up the Energy and Technology Committee in Hartford, they actually went to PURA and they petitioned PURA to reconsider their decision because they were hearing so much from you and from me and from others, not me personally, but you know what I'm saying, from you and from me, from everybody, that, well, me definitely on the air, definitely. They were hearing from consumers that the pain was too great and that Connecticut ratepayers needed a break. So Steinberg and Needleman asked PURA to reconsider their decision. They were hoping that it would be reconsidered. And once again, on a 2-1, with Marissa Gillette writing a 4-page dissent, the two people that originally wanted it in 10 months dug their heels in and said, we're not changing our mind. And Marissa Gillette wrote a 4-page dissent in which she basically said, you're out of touch. You're not thinking about the people that we are supposed to be representing. You're out of touch. And the majority decision said that it was likely that the reconsideration would be appealed. And by the time it was appealed, the whole thing would be moot. And she said, yeah, it probably would have been appealed, but it's still worth doing because when we get appealed, our decisions win in court. And so there's this real tug of war within PURA, and it's become a political football. That is one of the major stories in Connecticut right now. And if you want to weigh in on that, you can certainly call us at 203-333-9422. But your more effective advocacy is most likely going to be with your local state rep or state senator because it's the Tuesday after Labor Day. Everybody's back to school. Before you know it, the long session, will be resuming after November, after the elections. There'll be a new body of people. There are elections right now, and this utility football has become an election issue. So if you care about this is something that you're going to want to ask either people running or your incumbents. How do you stand on these utility rates? Who are you for or against? And Edmund Mahoney from the Hartford Courant wrote a story today. Well, he wrote it over the weekend. The decision came out on Friday afternoon that basically said that Marissa Gillette sounds more like a consumer advocate than she does the chair of PURA. And incidentally, just so you know, another story is that apparently she and perhaps others on PURA have now been personally targeted with hate mail and other threats, so much so that the police and law enforcement have to look into it. So all of a sudden, this rather nondescript bureaucracy appointed by the governor with the consent of the legislature that nobody elects and nobody really heard of, PURA, who is PURA, all of a sudden now they're becoming a target. They're becoming a target for political ambitions, and they're becoming a target for the crazy wackos out there that think that it's okay to threaten people doing their jobs. Because no matter how you stand on this, you have to assume that people are doing their jobs in the best way that they consider their jobs to be done. And whether you think that Marissa Gillette was right or not, It's irrelevant. You don't go around and threaten public officials. But that is another big story that's happening here. So I think that that's really the big one. 203-333-9422. Now, in terms of my dinner table, and my conversations, the biggest story was Israel this weekend. I don't know if you heard. It was a very, very sad, tragic day. I was on the phone with my family, friends in Israel yesterday. So the tragedy is that 6 people, among them the American whose parents spoke at the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, pleading for his safe return. There were 6 hostages that were almost about to be rescued by the IDF, and they were shot in their darkened, obscure, hard to reach, very hard to find tunnel. Among them, I believe, were 2 women, 4 men. And one of the women, Eden, the Hamas actually released her last video, her dying video. In other words, the last remnant that we have of her speaking before she was shot in cold blood. They were all shot. Before they were shot, many of them were maimed, including Hirsch Goldberg Polin, who is the person who's the American. His arm was ripped off on October 7th, and he was taken with an amputated, ripped-off arm into captivity. And his parents have spoken all over the world. And I actually want to leave you with a couple of clips before we go to our first commercial interruption, 203-333-9422, because this is actually the topic at our dinner table conversation, and I'm going to go into it in just a moment. That's why I invited Senator Blumenthal to be on. That's why he's joining us at 11:05. I want you to hear Hirsch Goldberg Polin's mom, Robin, at the DNC. Clip 2.
At this moment, 109 treasured human beings are being held hostage by Hamas in Gaza. They are Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, and Buddhists. They are from 23 different countries. The youngest hostage is a 1-year-old red-headed baby boy, and the oldest is an 86-year-old mustachioed grandpa. Among the hostages are 8 American citizens. One of those Americans is our only son. His name is Hirsch. He's 23 years old. And like Vice President Kamala Harris, Hirsch was born in Oakland, California. Hirsch is a happy-go-lucky, laid-back, good-humored, respectful, and curious person. He is a civilian. He loves soccer, is wild about music and music festivals, and he has been obsessed with geography and travel since he was a little boy.
And that was before she became an unspeakably grieving mom who spoke, and we're going to hear what she had to say right after this. You're listening to the Lisa Wexler Show here on WICC 203-333-9422. We'll be right back.
The voice of Connecticut, WICC, now on 95.9 FM. The all-new WICC 695.9, your only source for local news and talk in Fairfield County. Listen on 600 AM and 95.9 FM or online at voiceofct.com. The voice of Connecticut, WICC 695.9.
We are always growing up, growing old, but are you growing in your job? Onboard USA is a family-owned company providing total workforce solutions to the majority of Fortune 1000 companies. Onboard USA wants to put their 44 years experience to work for you by finding you work that provides full-time opportunities, benefits, advancement, and a safe working environment. Onboard USA is looking for welders, pipe fitters, journeyman industrial electricians, and warehouse workers. Get on board and start growing. Visit onboardusa.com and click careers to get started.
Planning Planning ahead is an act of love, and Abriola Parkview Funeral Home is here to assist you in that journey. Our compassionate and experienced team will assist you in creating a personalized plan tailored to your desires and budget. We will ensure your wishes are met, offering peace of mind to you and your family. Customize your arrangements, relieve financial burden, and make your legacy unforgettable. Call Abriola Parkview Funeral Home for a free pre-planning consultation. Take control of your future today. Visit us at abriola.com. Your peace of mind starts here.
Hi, this is Leo Carl from Carl Chevrolet in New Canaan. Last year, more consumers switched to Chevrolet than any other automotive brand. Why? With more standard passive and active safety features than any other brand, plus easy-to-use technology like wireless Apple CarPlay, Chevy simply builds in more value. And who doesn't love getting more for their money? With fresh inventory arriving daily, see for yourself at Carl Chevrolet, 261 Elm Street in New Canaan, or online at carlchevy.com.
Do you have questions about real estate? Learn the secrets of real estate investing and get your questions answered during the Real Estate Show with Pat Civitella. Listen Sunday mornings from 9 to 10 for expert information about real estate investing, downsizing, and improvements before selling. Pat will help turn your real estate dreams into reality. Tune in and call The Real Estate Show with Pat Civitella. Sunday mornings from 9 to 10, right here on WICC 600 and 95.9.
The Lisa Wexler Show is back, and only on the Voice of Connecticut. WICC 600 and 95.9.
And welcome back to the show. Hola, bola. If you're joining us now, if you're a new listener from 95.9, hello, here we are. We at WICC 600 we at WICC are delighted. I'm still looking at that logo. That, you know what? That's all right, Keith. There's one. Hold on. Justin's holding himself up. That's hilarious. Okay, Pavlovian dog. Who said I'm right? 203-333-9422. You can call me at 203-333-9422. All right. But anyway, we are on 600 AM and 95.9 FM, and we're delighted to be talking to everybody at all times. Also, we've got a beautiful brand new brand, which I think is incredibly, we are well suited for, the Voice of Connecticut. Voiceofct.com is the way you're going to find us online. And if you miss any part of our show, The Lisa Wexler Show, you can hear it. You can hear the interviews. Typically, we roll them out on podcasts. So if you're coming in the middle of an interview and you're like, you know, I really wanted to hear the middle of that, or you're very excited about it, but you needed to leave, you can hear it at the end of your day, by the end of your day, wherever it is you listen to podcasts. We're up as the Lisa Wexler Show on Apple. We are on Spotify. We are on Amazon. Wherever it is you listen, you can find us, and we make it easy, free, and available. If you'd like to become a patron of the show, that allows you to hear the entire show without commercials whenever you want. You will find that on those podcast websites by looking for exclusive content. 203-333-9422. We have Richard Blumenthal coming up at 11. We have at 10:30 our wonderful Tom Dutchick, ctcapitalreport.com. He's the founder, and he knows everything and anything about what's happening in Connecticut. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about our dinner table. So what I call dinner table conversation. I'm a proud Jewish woman. You know that about me for a long time. And I have very real ties to Israel. My son-in-law is Israeli, so his mother, Ayala, and I spoke over the weekend, and she's there. And she, I should read you what she wrote me, but she basically said that it's Israel's being torn apart. And this is what I wanted to tell you, because I think that the press here gets it a little bit wrong, in that we assume, many of us assume, that this is about Netanyahu. There were protests that erupted, visceral, emotional protests that erupted after these 6 hostages were found dead. And yes, Netanyahu is somebody who is the figure. He is the leader of Israel, and many people in Israel think that the day after October 7th, he should have offered his resignation. But it's a coalition government, and his coalition has not abandoned him. And unless and until his coalition abandons him in a parliamentary system, unless he wants to call for an election, much as Macron did in France, there is no way for the people to force an election. There will be a regularly scheduled election. I believe that's to occur next year, which might as well be a lifetime away. But until and unless that, the government doesn't automatically get a chance to be reelected unless his governing coalition abandons him, and then he has to call for new elections. And that has not happened since October 7th, because as many people as hate Netanyahu, and they do, there are also many who believe that in wartime, you stick with the leader that you've got, and then you exhale after the war and you figure out who should lead the country. So the protests over the weekend were not exactly about him. Let me tell you what they were, but they were about some of his leadership decisions. What's happening right now in Israel, and the country is being torn apart. And let me ask you, 203-333-9422, what do you think about this? The dilemma has been presented to Israel to either accept what Hamas has put on the table, which allows routes, particularly the Philadelphia route. It sounds like Philadelphia, and it's spelled like Philadelphia without the A, Philadelphia route. Maybe it was named after Philadelphia. I don't know. But it's a route that goes to Egypt. And Hamas wants to protect its routes and make sure that Israeli soldiers aren't on them. And that is their condition for having a ceasefire with the release of hostages. But there are other conditions as well. And the fight in Israel is this. And let me ask you how you feel about this. 203-333-9422. There are some Israelis who believe that they should give Hamas whatever it asks for in order to get back the hostages. Full stop. And then the day after they get back the hostages, then they can worry about whether or not they're going to do what they promised to do. There are other people like Netanyahu and many of the generals who believe that if you give Hamas what it wants, you're just allowing them to broadcast internationally, to crow about how they won the war, and to reward them for their strategy of taking hostages in order to win. And that you just cannot say yes to these unreasonable demands of Hamas, because these routes are the routes with which weapons, arms, missiles, terrorism have continued to pour into Israel. And that Israel cannot afford to even give lip service to allowing Hamas to say we won the war. That in exchange for hostages, we are getting these unfettered routes which have allowed us to invade Israel. What would you do? The parents and the people that you saw that caused a labor strike in Israel to close Ben Gurion Airport for people coming and going to Israel for 7 hours over the weekend. You couldn't land or take off from Israel. The whole country was shut down. Today, the teachers aren't working. There's been no school. You know, their day is Sunday. We've had Sunday, Monday because we had Labor Day. But Sunday is when the kids were supposed to go back to school. Aviv did not go back to school on Sunday. Libby did not go back to school on Sunday. No school. Teachers on strike. Why? It's not labor negotiations for more money. This is their way of saying that they are opposed to their government. That they feel that with the parents of these hostages, that you should say yes to whatever the F they say they want in order to get the people back. And then you worry about it. And what do you think about that? 203-333-9422. It's a real dilemma, isn't it? Because if you're a diplomat, your word is your bond. You're getting the okay of the United States of America. You know that you've got the United States and Western diplomacies behind you. I'm talking about Israel, helping support you when the Houthis want to bomb you. They're interrupting it at their own risk to life and limb of weapon systems and people. And it's the Western European alliances and the United States that are putting pressure on Israel right now. They're putting pressure on Israel to say yes to everything. So what do you do? And that's where they stand right now. And I'm telling you, the country is absolutely being ripped apart. I want you to hear clip 4. This is from the funeral. So earlier, we played you Hirsch Goldberg, Poland's mom at the DNC, when she really believed her son was alive, even though he had an amputated arm. She didn't have any reason to think that he was dead. And so, of course, she clung to the hope that he was alive. And now, bitterly, she finds out that moments before he was to be rescued, he was killed. This is at the funeral. Clip 4.
It's not that Hirsch was perfect, but he was the perfect son for me. For 23 years, I was privileged to have the most stunning honor to be Hirsch's mama. I'll take it and say thank you. I just wish it had been for longer. Hirsch, for all these months, I have been in such torment and worry about you for every single millisecond of every single day. It was such a specific type of misery that I have never experienced before. I tried hard to suppress the missing you part, because that, I was convinced, would break me. So I spent 330 days terrified, scared, worrying, and frightened. It closed my throat and made my soul throb with third-degree burns. Now I no longer have to worry about you. I know you are no longer in danger. You are with beautiful honor. Okay, sweet boy, go now on your journey. I hope it's as good as the trips you dreamed about, because finally, my sweet boy, finally, you're free.
I mean, seriously. I mean, if that doesn't break your heart, and I've heard it more than once. Finally, my boy is free. Okay, I'm Lisa Wexler. We're going to be right back. We're going to turn the conversation around with Tom Dutchick of CTCapitalReport.com, and you're going to get the idea of the pulse of what's going on here in Connecticut, but also from around the world and country. I'm Lisa Wexler. We'll be right back.
To listen to the Lisa Wexler Show podcast, just search and subscribe in your favorite podcast app.
Selling your home is a numbers game. The more potential buyers who see it, the greater the opportunity to sell. And when your home is listed on Smart MLS, more than 21,000 realtors see it, and so do all their buyers. Suddenly, the number of people looking at your home starts to grow by a lot. More realtors sharing your listing, more people seeing your home, more offers coming in, and maybe even more cash in your pocket. Smart move, right? Ask your realtor. Is my house on Smart MLS? Smart MLS, the smart way to sell your home.
Are you or a loved one struggling with stairs? Hi, it's Brian Collins from Collins Accessibility. We can help. Safety and independence are a ride away with our stair lifts. We offer stair lifts to keep you at home as long as you want, and now we even have the mobile stair lift to help you navigate stairs anywhere, anytime. Don't let stairs limit your life. We solve stair issues both indoors or outside. Call us and reclaim your independence with our stair lifts. 203-307-2395 or collinsaccessibilityct.com.
Hey, you hear about the $2 million jackpot scratch ticket? It's the biggest second chance prize ever.
$2 million?
$2 million.
That's big.
Hey, some are saying the biggest. Plus lots of other big prizes, from $10,000 to $100,000.
Play the $2 million jackpot scratch ticket. And if you don't win, enter for a second chance at the $2 million top prize.
Please play responsibly. Overall odds 1 in 3.08. Odds vary during game. Must be 18 or older to purchase. Second chance odds depend on interest received.
The Lisa Wexler Show is back on WICC 600 and 95.9, the voice of Connecticut.
And welcome back to the show. We're still pretty choked up here. I played you the clip of Robin Goldberg Poland, who is the mother of Hirsch, who was speaking at the funeral in Israel. And after so many days of worry that her son, who had his arm ripped off on the way out of Israel, being kidnapped, but believing that she would get him back and believing he was alive, finding out that he was killed in the latest round of hostage murders, all 6 of them beautiful, beautiful people, and speaking at the funeral about how he's finally free. That's a tough one. And Tom Dutchick joins us right now, CTCapitalReport.com. And I have to tell you, Tom, you're joining us now, and you're going to give us the skinny on what's happening because you really have your finger on the pulse. But you know that story, and you know it all too well because you're a parent who lost 2 boys within recent memory. It's just, I mean, really, Tom, right?
Well, it's horrible. We all grieve. We all grieve for them. We all grieve for a mother's grief who is very difficult to come to grips with. It's going to be a long road ahead for her. Our prayers are with her, as it has been for us. It's been about 2 years since both of our sons died in a car accident, and it's not a day we don't cry, and that's just how it's going to be.
Right.
And it's just you have to get used to kind of a new way of your life, and you can't say you're going to move forward or you're going to go forward, because there is no forward. It's a hole in your heart and in your life that will never be replaced. And you wake up in the middle of the night and you question God, you question everything, and it's going to be a long haul for her, and we pray for her.
Yeah, thank you, Tom, and we pray for you and Nora too. Think about you guys all the time, but you're right. It's not forward. It's just a new now. That's about it.
And what happens when you have a great loss like this? When you hear a mother like that, then you grieve all over again.
Yes.
And you remember your grief, and you remember how difficult it is. And everyone's, there was a tragic boat accident here in Old Saybrook, and both Nora and I knew some of the people who died there. And again, our heart goes out, and we live our tragedy as well.
Yeah, you go right back to that place, right? You go right back to that place.
You're right back to this place, and sadly, we are not alone on this journey, and that's sad.
Right. Well, I want to tell you, Tom, I really appreciate you coming on today. Today's our first day that the 95.9 FM listeners are getting to hear us, as well as the AM 600 WICC listeners. And this station is 98 years old. It's 98 years old.
I know. I mean, I used to go when Governor Waker was there many studios ago. Back in the Tim Quinn days. It's been a hallmark in the community in Bridgeport and that part of Connecticut for decades and decades of bringing good quality talk, journalism, public service. It's just a great station.
It's a great station. And I will say, under the leadership of connoisseur Jeff Warshaw, when he took over after Cumulus said goodbye, thankfully, all of a sudden, I mean, it basically had a major facelift and a major new commitment. And this is now going back since 2020, a major real commitment to nurturing local journalistic talent and stories. And this is yet another expansion and resurgence of that. So I couldn't be more. I'm 18 years on the air, Tom, and because you've been on that journey with me for just about all of it, 18 years, STCNLK, 2006, and you were on my show then. And this is by far the most comprehensive, committed news organization I've been with, and this is why I love doing the show. So, and you're doing the same thing. Yeah. Now you
have to learn a new call sign when you give your breaks.
I know. We're trying to figure it out right now. We are, but actually with the Voice of Connecticut. We've been rebranded as the Voice of Connecticut. That is our new website, voiceofct.com. And so you can trumpet that on ctcapitalreport.com, the Voice of Connecticut, because that's what we are. That's really what we are.
Yeah, I was talking to my friend Mike Cerulli, who's also been on your program and also does a show, and he says he's been practicing under his breath. The new call sign, so when he gets behind the microphone, he'll flow off his tongue.
Exactly. Oh, he's great. He's a wonderful addition to our Saturday morning lineup, and when I have a chance, I call into his show too. He's doing a great job. So, Tom, ctcapitalreport.com. You are the news aggregator. Tell me what you think are the top 2 or 3 stories right now going on in Connecticut.
Well, it is Labor Day, Lisa, the official kickoff of the campaign season here in Connecticut. I mean, there's a kind of a resurgent optimism, I'm sure you've spoken about, of the Democrats in Connecticut as far as Kamala Harris goes. Hope in the 5th district, Johanna Hayes hopefully is going to capitalize on that new resurgence in enthusiasm. A lot of Republicans who are thinking that George Logan may have a chance, and I think he has a really, really good chance of winning. But it's still a blue state, and you never know how that's going to go. But certainly with a Biden presidency and lower voter turnout amongst a very Democratic population, that may have given people pause to think that George, may have a better chance. So we'll see. But that's one of the big races that we're kind of focusing on, on my website and on my TV property on Sunday mornings at 10:30 on WTNH.
You know that Jahana Hayes has the distinction of being, I think, the only politician that we've asked to come on our show that never has. It's remarkable
she
to me.
certainly is she certainly is a difficult person to track down and get her in front of a microphone. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, what's that about?
Usually-
How do you say to yourself? I mean, you run the gamut. This is not about partisanship because Richard Blumenthal is the most accessible, bar none politician in our state. End of story. He gives out his cell phone on the air. He's happy for people to use it. I call him the Where's Waldo of Connecticut politics. We have a whole intro for him. Where's Waldo? And so you have him on one side as a Democrat. And then you have Jahana Hayes on the other side as a Democrat, and she practically hides from the press. What's that about?
Yeah, that's very difficult. I know Mike Cerulli with Channel 8 has been trying to get her on camera to ask her some tough questions that he's asked George Logan, and so far it's been very difficult to get her to talk about those really meaningful issues outside of just a quick soundbite here and there at the parade in Newtown. But yes, and Blumenthal. But as you know, Blumenthal, that is genuine. He genuinely loves his job. He genuinely, truly cares for people. He has an encyclopedic knowledge of who you are. He'll ask you personal questions about your family. I mean, he is what you would want in someone representing you in Washington.
No question about it. He is so the real deal. And it doesn't mean that people who are listening are going to agree with every one of his votes or policies. But let me tell you something. He doesn't ask you whether you're Republican, unaffiliated, or Democrat if you need his help. If you have an immigration question or something like that he can assign a caseworker to, he's not interested. If you live in Connecticut, he's going to help you. That's it.
No. And I'm sure you've spoken about the electrical rates here in our state.
Yes.
And that's certainly as we go into the fall campaign season. I know the Republicans have had a press conference on. I know you probably talked about it on your program with any number of Republicans and Democrats. That's an issue that I think can really affect turnout at this election as people look at their electric bills. A recent article in this morning's Harvard Business Journal, which I have on my website, talks about how business owners are struggling in a very difficult economy with doubling electric rates. They're having to lay off people to make up for it. So it's an incredibly difficult issue for people to get their arms around, and it's an issue that Governor Ella Grasso spoke about. That's how long we've been talking about our electrical consumption in Connecticut, and how difficult it is to grow businesses and to bring businesses here when they look at how much it costs them here versus in other states. I mean, with these electrical rates, you might as well live on Hawaii.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
At least live in paradise. At least live in paradise.
I hear what you're saying. That's funny. Right. Well, Marissa Gillette, once again, 2-1, as even though she's the chair, she can't seem to persuade one of the other two people to agree with her, writing a 4-page dissent on Friday about why she thought that they should reconsider a decision which, a few months ago she had already said that she wanted to do it a different way, and that's about spreading it out over 22 months versus 10 months. And she lost again. She doesn't. They don't agree with her.
Yeah, and the Republicans are pushing for a special session. I think the Democrats are loath to actually come into a special session now, which they believe would be political posturing ahead of an election. And so maybe this is something they try to do. And the governor has basically said we're not going to solve this with one-time kind of rebates. And he's been kind of clear on what he wants to do when it comes to renewable energies and other things. It's a long-term solution, but people are hurting in the short term. So I don't know. It's a difficult situation for sure. And he says, and what they're banking on is when, people turn their air conditioners off, they'll see everything go down because it was a historically hot July in June.
Yeah, we're talking with Tom Dutchick of ctcapitalreport.com, and that is the number one. I really don't think there's any competition. If you want to know what's happening in print media, but also links to audio media and our show, but print media in particular, it is basically the Drudge Report of Connecticut news. And it looks a little like Drudge. It's got the black and white headlines. All the links work. And in 30 to 60 seconds, if you go on ctcapitalreport.com, you can see what's happening merely by the headlines themselves. That's why I love doing
It's basically show prep for most of the people in Connecticut who do radio and television.
That's correct. That's right. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you very much, Tom.
I do my thing. One-stop shopping, and I try to keep it simple, and I don't have any crazy video rolling and pop-up ads and side slide. And it's made for busy people who just want the news very quickly across all the publications in Connecticut, and basically national stuff that I think may be of interest. And I try to put links on there about energy in other states and what other states are doing and housing issues and how other states are tackling stuff to kind of give our lawmakers, the site's read by all the lawmakers in the state, kind of an idea of what other states are doing to tackle some of these issues that we're trying to tackle here in Connecticut.
Well, one of the things that I know you live up in East Haddam, and one of the things that looks like it's percolating or permutating from Massachusetts is this equine virus coming from these mosquitoes. What have you been hearing about Deep's plans to spray? Because I know last week I saw that they were going to spray a forest, a Connecticut state forest, and now there's a lot of talk about it. And there are as many people who are opposed to spraying, as appear to be in favor of it. I'm nervous about it myself. Every time we poison one thing, we end up poisoning a lot more things.
Well, you are right that there is a lot of talk of spraying here. I know the people that I talk to in my social circles. I mean, they're really afraid of the mosquitoes. I mean, I've never heard people basically say to me that I'm really afraid to go outside at night because I may get bit. So I mean, it's certainly on people's mind, and whether this even comes up as kind of a campaign issue, as they talk about aggressive spraying to kind of stop the spread of this disease, is yet to be seen.
Well, what now? So you've said that you think that Logan and Johanna Hayes may be a nail biter. We know that the RNC was putting a lot of money into George Logan's campaign. At least initially, they said they were going to. I don't know if the money was delivered. And Johanna Hayes is very close with Chris Murphy, and he's at the top echelon of the Kamala Harris campaign. There have even been rumors that if Kamala Harris gets in, that Chris Murphy might be tapped as Secretary of State. So I can't imagine that the DNC is going to abandon her. Have we seen a lot of money come in these races?
Oh, sure. I think you're going to see a lot more. I think the interesting thing is that, and our friend Mike Cerulli writes a very interesting column on Monday morning that you can subscribe to on the website called The Tip Sheet. And he broke down what's called the Democrats' coordinated campaign here in Connecticut, where they put a lot of money and resources, not only to drive top line voters to Senator Murphy, but also to state representatives, state senators, and the congressional candidates. And that means organizing that's already in the districts, supplementing that, putting more money in to do more door knocking, more phone banking. I mean, it's really gotten down to a very technologically savvy group of people who are running these organizations, and so that's the kind of ground game that we don't see on television, but that's a real interesting part of what's going on across the state, kind of behind the scenes.
And who are the people, Tom? Is it Nancy DiNardo? Who are the people?
No, well, it's people that whose names you wouldn't recognize. It's Senator Murphy's campaign manager and some of the deputy campaign managers. They're working this campaign. Go to my website, sign up for the tip sheet. You can get access to the archives. It's a real fascinating read.
Yeah, it really is. And before I let you go, because I know you're running, we're chatting with Tom Dutchick of CTCapitalReport.com. Now, you know that I have a blank spot when it comes to sports because I'm really not interested in. I'm sorry, Tom. I'm not interested in watching sports. Okay, I'm just not. I'm interested in doing yoga every day. I'm into it, and I can appreciate a good tennis game and whatever. But it's just like. But I'm filled with news about some kind of switching of UConn to a Big 12, and I need to understand what that means and why it's important. Like, why is that news? Talk to me.
Well, there's probably far better people than me to kind of break down the intricacies of the Big 12. But from a high level standpoint, it all comes down to money, Lisa. I mean, joining a major power conference, means a lot in revenues to universities. And as you would imagine, the UConn basketball program, both men and women, are kind of like gold chips that are coveted by other networks. The Power 5 TV contract payouts to member schools are basically 10 times what the Big East gets, And what happens in UConn, the state subsidized UConn athletics $53 million in 22 and $35.8 million in 23. So there's a lot of taxpayers' money going to subsidize athletics while the athletic department runs a deficit. The football program in Connecticut in 23 ran a $14 million deficit. So there's a lot of people that go before the legislature and say, hey, what are we doing here? The UConn football has not had a good program. I think they wouldn't, if they were to join a power conference, the Big 12, they wouldn't go until at least 31. And so they would have to get the program up to shape. Everyone doesn't think Rensselaer Field in East Hartford is a great place to play football. Mark D'Amelio was a great booster for the university. He's been arguing for a on-campus football facility. So there's a lot of things, a lot of balls moving in the air, Lisa. And it's something that you got to keep an eye on because there's a lot of people that follow this, and a lot of it's driven by the fact that these conferences want what UConn has in Madison Square Garden and the Fairfield County people that support the program. That's big to them.
So Big 12 is football. It's not basketball?
No, it is. Yep, it is basketball. Kansas and Baylor, who've both been national championships, are in that division. But the problem is what my wife would tell you is that we don't want to watch UConn Baylor or UConn Texas Christian University or UConn versus Utah. We want to watch UConn St. John's and UConn Georgetown and UConn Villanova and UConn Providence. But many people think the Big East is not going to be around in a bunch of years, and the TV revenue is not as much as the power conferences.
So all right. So wait a minute. So no. You think it's a nutshell? I need to even break it down. We're chatting with Tom Dutchick. What you're saying is that UConn, if they're in the Big 12, they play different teams during the course of their season, and there are people who are going to miss the teams that they play. They're going to miss those matchups.
Yes, the average fan that likes Big East basketball, because UConn went away from the Big East basketball to what's called the AAC, and they remedied that a few years back ago. I know you have Senator Blumenthal on next. You may want to get his views on this too, because I'm sure he has some interesting thoughts on it.
There's a lot of acronyms there, and they're going right over my head.
There is.
I know. Well, yeah. But Tom Dutchick, CT Capital Report, go to your personal trainer. I know that there are things that are very pressing right now, very important. And I want to thank you for... Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah,
great to join you. Best of luck with your new call sign.
Oh, thank you so much. Tom Dutchick, ctcapitalreport.com. That is your website for things that are happening in Connecticut, for sure. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be right back. More of the Lisa Wexler Show up ahead. 203-333-9422.
The Lisa Wexler Show on WICC 600 AM and 107.3 FM. And wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, you'll find the best of Lisa, too.
Find the right senior living or dementia care community for your loved one with me, Chris Curran of Care Patrol. Care Patrol is the nation's #1 free concierge placement service for seniors and their families.
Chris from Care Patrol was an absolute pleasure to work with. He made the process of finding the right place for my father-in-law incredibly easy. I'm so thankful. And my father-in-law is in a safe and happy place.
Call me at 203-448-7414. or visit carepatrolct.com.
Hi, this is David from Standard Oil. Do you know why Standard Oil was voted best oil company in Connecticut? Great service, day or night. If you have a heating emergency at 2 a.m., Standard Oil has service technicians who work through the night to ensure fast response to heating emergencies, usually within 2 hours. Most importantly, great service means truly knowledgeable technicians who care about customers. For great service, day or night, call Standard Oil or visit us online at standardoil.com.
You're listening to The Lisa Wexler Show, only on WICC 600 and 95.9, the voice of Connecticut.
Hola, bola. Welcome back to the show at 11:05. We're going to be hearing from Senator Richard Blumenthal. You can call me at 203-333-9422. I wanted to give you a little bit of an update. You know that one of the stories we've been covering so closely is the fallout from the flooding that occurred a couple of weeks ago on that Sunday, where the Valley, Oxford, Seymour, parts of Wilton, not in the Valley, just different weird parts of Connecticut, had unexpectedly torrential amounts of water, leading the politicians to call for some federal help which President Biden signed almost immediately. And now we're starting to divvy up and add up all of the damages. And they think it's going to approach $1 billion. There's that much that's going on. So I just wanted to let you know that that is definitely still happening. And if you are somebody who thinks you might be eligible for federal relief, Ken Dixon, shout out Connecticut Post, 2,000 businesses, towns, and residents of Fairfield, New Haven, and Litchfield counties have already begun the bureaucratic process of seeking aid in recovering money. And 3 teams from FEMA, along with representatives of the Small Business Administration, have been on the ground throughout these towns. Affected towns, I can't even read all of them to you: Beacon Falls, Weston, Naugatuck, Monroe, Newtown, Reading, Oxford, Ridgefield. The Waterbury branch line of Metro North remains closed for at least the next month as crews repair 2 spots where high water nearly washed away the roadbed at the cost of millions of dollars. It's too soon to have a full estimate of how much work they're going to have to do. And in recent days, Governor Lamont announced a $5 million grant program aimed at helping about 200 businesses cover lost inventory with a $25,000 cash award that you may be eligible to get. So don't sit still. If this is something you think that you might be eligible for and you're feeling paralyzed, have a friend do it for you. Go on the website, call the governor's office, call your local state rep or state senator. This is why they're in business. This is what they're supposed to do. It's literally public service. Let's go to Grant from Easton. Hi, Grant. Welcome to the show today. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Good. Nice, beautiful morning.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Gorgeous. How lucky are we to live here?
Yep. What effect do you think that the settlers are having on the situation in Israel?
You mean the West Bank settlers? The ones
Right.
that believe that it is their God-given religious right to occupy Judea and Samaria? I think
Yes.
that they are definitely in the back. Let me tell you what I think. I think that they are a part of the reason why Israel was caught with its pants down last October 7th, because there was so much skirmishing and noise and political infighting about what to do about the West Bank settlers, that the IDF was preoccupied with that border to the detriment of the Gazan border. That's number one, Grant. That's number one. So in terms of its impact, I think it had a very big impact. In terms of its ongoing sort of irritability impact, I can tell you that the West Bank settlers are viewed as extremists by the majority of Israelis. Not all, but by the majority. The majority of Israelis view the West Bank settlers as people that have a ferocity to occupy land that is not Israel proper, and that they cause a lot of problems. Now, some of them may be sympathetic to them, right? They might be. But I think for the majority of Israelis, the majority of modern Israelis, I'm not speaking for the cloistered, ultra-religious people who number in the hundreds of thousands who follow their Rebbe wherever he goes. I'm not speaking for that. I'm speaking for the modern Israeli and the modern Israeli, both modern Israeli Arab and the modern Israeli Jew, believe that the West Bank settlers are extremists within Israeli society. That's what I know.
Are the settlers breaking laws?
That's a really good question, and I'm not sure I know the answer. Pardon me. I'm not sure I know the answer within Israel as to whether or not they're breaking laws. I'm not sure. I don't know. I know that when they go and attack people or they, create resources that need to help them defend themselves, that is a stressor on society and that nobody should ever be excused for wantonly attacking anybody else. But, they believe that that the borders of Israel are not the current political borders of Israel. They believe the borders of Israel are the historic borders of Israel that are in the Bible and that include these areas. That's what they believe, Grant. What can I tell you? And that's why they settled there.
What does Netanyahu do? Netanyahu, by his silence on this issue with them, is in effect supporting them.
Netanyahu will and has done everything he can to keep his coalition alive. His coalition includes extreme religionists, and he is not a religious man himself, although one of his children is, his daughter is. and his coalition includes people that support the West Bank settlers. And it is because it is a coalition government that the minority representation has an outsized impact on the government policy. So imagine if the United States of America, Grant, was, instead of being ruled by a majority of one vote, Republicans versus Democrats, which tends to have people go to the center. Imagine if, which is like what happened with the Matt Gaetz small minority, if a small group of people could throw out the Speaker of the House, which is what they did. Remember when they threw out Kevin McCarthy and all of the shaking up that happened as a result of them? Now, Matt Gaetz and his coterie there, they don't represent the majority of Republicans. They don't even represent the majority of elected Republicans, much less, the Republicans out there that vote. But they had an outsized impact on what happened in our Congress. And that kind of thing happens every day in Israel because it's a coalition government. And they have to have a coalition. And that means if a minority who represents 5 seats decides to walk across the aisle and support the other guy, then as a quid pro quo, they get a lot more of their agenda listened to than they would otherwise have based on the amount of people that vote for them. See what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
So what is the answer as far as Netanyahu and his firm foothold still in Israel?
I think the answer is there's going to be an election. I think it's another 2 years away, believe it or not. And
we got to do this for 2 years.
I think Israel has to wait, not us, but Israel. Yeah, I think it's a long time away. Yeah, he got elected again. The man has gotten elected more or less, with one exception here and there, for 20 years. 20 years. Do you know another democracy that has the same person elected for 20 years? It's incredible. But he keeps getting elected. Yeah. He's a very strategically savvy guy. But a lot of people hate him, and they can't wait to see the day after he's not there anymore. Grant, I'm coming up to the hour. Thank you so much for calling. 203-333-9422. You're listening to WICC. We are at 600 AM and 95.9 FM, the voice of Connecticut, voiceofct.com. And we're coming up with Senator Richard Blumenthal in just a few moments. So stay tuned. News, weather, traffic, all of that up ahead right here on your dial. Stick around. I'm Lisa Wexler. We'll be right back.
WICC Bridgeport, WFOX Southport, WEBE HD2 Westport, WPLR HD2 New Haven, Fairfield University Graduate and Professional Studies Studio.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Steve Kathan. 2 U.S. Marines attacked in Turkey. A mob yelling, "Yankee, go home," carries out the violence.
Members of an anti-American youth group assaulted the service members. The Americans were dressed in civilian clothes and had disembarked from the USS Wasp. The attackers said on social media that they had placed sacks over their heads. 5 other Americans came to their rescue. The U.S. Embassy says all of the U.S. personnel are now safe.
That's CBS's Cammie McCormick. In Israel, CBS's Imtiaz Tayyab is covering the sharp reaction as tens of thousands condemn Prime Minister Netanyahu for failing to secure an end to the war in Gaza and the release of the remaining hostages.
His extreme far-right wing allies want to see the war go on. In fact, they've been quite disparaging about hostage families, and it really just seems to be tearing apart Israeli society, where, as we've been saying, we're expecting more mass protests tonight.
Now to Ukraine, where President Zelensky says more than 40 were killed, nearly 200 others injured in a 2-pronged Russian missile attack.
2 ballistic missiles hit the territory of an educational institution and a neighbouring hospital. One of the buildings of the Institute of Communications was partially destroyed. People were trapped under the rubble. Many of them were rescued.
The mayor of a French coastal town being used in a rescue operation says 13 migrants are dead after their boat ripped apart during an attempted crossing of the English Channel. Hugh Schofield of the BBC.
A boat was seen in great difficulty, coming apart, breaking up. All the people on board ended up in the water, and there were, at least 50, maybe 60 or even 70 people on board.
Well, today is the last scheduled day of a strike by 10,000 workers at 25 hotels over pay and other conditions. Marriott, Hyatt, and Hilton properties have been targeted. About half are in Hawaii. Cade Watanabe is with a union that represents workers there.
You can feel the sense of frustration and anger that our members have, the feeling of being taken for granted, the frustration that we put everything into our jobs, and yet we're struggling to get the basic respect that we deserve.
Contract talks began in May, but have stalled in recent weeks. Federal regulators have linked yet another death to dangerous Takata airbag inflators. It's a driver who died in a 2018 Honda crash in Alabama, the 28th fatality blamed on the inflators in this country. Wall Street, the Dow is down 440 points. This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
He was in denial.
And when I got those letters from the IRS, you wanted to act like they didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really people-friendly. It was every bit of a new lease on life for me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was in a dream, but it's real, and I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job done, and life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. Optima Tax Relief. Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit Optima.
WICC News, I'm Melissa Sheketoff. A new milestone today for your favorite radio station. Just shy of its 98th birthday, WICC is now venturing to a second signal, making it even easier to access our local shows. 600 AM will continue, but now you can also access WICC on 95.9 FM, formerly known as the Fox. 7 people were rescued from a boat sinking in Long Island Sound off the coast of Bridgeport this weekend. The Bridgeport Fire Marine Unit was dispatched to a 32-foot boat that was taking on water. 5 of the 7 people were safely evacuated, while the other 2 remained on board to make sure the vessel was towed to shore safely. And a section of Route 67 in Oxford that was washed out during last month's historic flooding has reopened. Oxford Public Schools are expected to resume classes starting this Thursday, September 5th. Sponsored by Courtesy Carpet Flooring Design Center. Now is the time for a fresh new look for your home. Save on top flooring brands at Courtesy Carpet, Route 111 in Monroe. I'm Melissa Sheketoff, WICC News.
By the way, Senator Blumenthal, where are you this morning?
I am on my way from New Britain. I'm on my way to Washington on the highway, heading from Washington, D.C. up to Connecticut. I am on a train. I'm in my car. I'm on the Acela down to New Haven, and then I'm on my way to D.C. for votes. I'm in Washington, D.C. We're in the middle of a vote right now in the United States Senate. I'm in the midst of a Judiciary Committee hearing and just stepped out for a moment. I apologize that I can't spend as long as I'd like.
You know what? You're like a Where's Waldo character. You know, it's like I have to find you with pins on a map. That is, of course, our own Senator Richard Blumenthal, whose ears might have been ringing in the last segment with Tom Dutchick of CTCapitalReport.com. Hello, Senator. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. Congratulations on WICC taking over the Fox FM station that will give a even broader audience to the great work that you and others do there. Thank you for having me again.
It's pretty exciting for us, I have to say. We're sort of thrilled. We really are. We're very happy. So, and Senator, your ears might have been ringing because we were talking about how you really do show up for people. And I want to commend you for that, regardless of whoever is listening and political affiliation and votes. I consider you a public servant. You don't ask people's affiliation when they call you for constituent service. You don't ask whether or not they voted for you when you show up if they've been flooded or they've had some kind of other catastrophe happen for them. And I want to just say that you stand out as a public servant for your accessibility and extraordinary ability to be in all places at all times when people need you. I want to just say that.
Well, nothing could mean more to me, Lisa, than you're observing that I work hard. I may not be the most brilliant or the most charismatic of all United States senators or people in public office, but I work hard at it and I try to be accessible. That's really the prime part of my job, I think, is to listen to people, try to help them individually, regardless of whether they are Democrat or Republican or unaffiliated. And, it really makes no difference to me. I never ask.
So I asked you on...
people is the best part of the job.
It is. And I asked you on the show today because you have been candid about your father's story as a Nazi immigrant, in other words, as somebody who left the Nazis and escaped in time, and your extraordinary American success story here, but your roots to Israel, your deeply personal, historical, and familial roots to Israel, and you and I together share that, and the agony of over the last year, what's been happening there, the emergence of anti-Semitism here, that scathing report that came out on Friday about Columbia having to redo a lot of what they're about because of all the Jewish kids there that have been physically taunted and basically segregated and attacked for their Jewish faith. The overwhelming amount of Jewish kids now on college campuses who won't wear a Jewish star or a chai because they're afraid of being singled out as a Jew or called a Zionist, which somehow became a bad word. And then we have the very real and current present news of an American, a boy whose parents spoke at the Democratic National Convention. You were there. They believed he was alive. He was alive. And he and 5 others were shot by Hamas because they might have been rescued. And you sit at the juncture. You're on the Judiciary Committee. You're a U.S. Senator. You've made countless trips to the Middle East and Ukraine. So you tell us from 40,000 feet, what's going on? President Biden saying Netanyahu isn't doing enough, but he's not our president. In other words, as we can't do anything about the fact that Israel has a coalition government and his coalition is still standing behind him. That's their system. And until they have an election, that's it. They got him. I just want to hear your thoughts on all of this. It's been a terrible weekend. Terrible.
Well, my thoughts could consume the next few hours. Let me try to be as concise as possible. First of all, I came to know John and Rachel Goldberg-Poland, who spoke at the convention. I was there in the room, and they evoked such powerful emotions with their remarks from their hearts. And I've come to know them because they have visited me in the United States Senate at my office a number of times. I've corresponded with them. I've texted and emailed, and I've visited with them in Israel. They become personal friends in a very real way. And so I've lived through this agony that they've suffered. Anybody who is a parent can only imagine what it must be like to have your 23-year-old son taken, grievously injured, his arm partially blown off. And as they spoke at the convention, he was alive. He was shot, murdered in cold blood after being taken hostage and held for almost a year, literally killed within hours of the discovery of his body in the last few days. And the pain of that experience, I can only imagine. I listened to their remarks at his funeral.
Did you hear that? We played a little bit of that. Did you hear that? She says, now you're free, my son.
Well, I had listened to it independently. I didn't hear it, but I watched and heard their remarks at his funeral. And all of the hostage families have similar stories.
Terrible.
So, I think the grief and rage felt around the world, which I feel now, has to be mirrored in action. And I hope that we demand that Hamas be held accountable, that Qatar, Egypt, the U.S., Israel, and the international community do all they can to ensure that Hamas ends this horrific conflict and releases the remaining 100-plus hostages right away. You know, if Hamas stops the killing, it will end. And if Hamas will agree to the reasonable conditions that Secretary Blinken and the United States have suggested, the agreement is possible that will bring the hostages home and also provide more humanitarian relief for Gaza, and perhaps then in additional stages in the future lead to normalizing relations. Israel and Saudi Arabia were on the cusp of normalizing relations, which is why Hamas chose that moment for the October 7th massacre. And I have visited Saudi Arabia. I've spoken to the Crown Prince. They want to normalize relations with Israel. It's the key to the future. And I think a two-state solution combined with normalizing relations can bring some peace and stability to the region. So there are lots of moving parts here. But we also have to demand that the entire world and the United States community hold Hamas accountable for these growth.
But they don't appear to. But see, that's the problem, Senator Blumenthal. You know, even the reporter didn't say, should Hamas give back the hostages? And then, of course, Biden could have said yes. The reporter said, you know, isn't it Netanyahu's fault? In other words, what is going on? It is so backwards to me. You know, I apparently that there have been at least 3 negotiated ceasefire proposals that once again, and where have we seen this story before, Hamas at the last minute leaves the table and says we won't agree to, because they have the world's press in their hand. They have sympathy. They have protesters. They have pressure. They're enjoying this moment. When Israel went and we don't know it was Israel. When the person who was assassinated, Khania, was assassinated, you know, they found $3 billion of his money in Turkey. $3 billion, the 3 sons are coming to claim, and Erdogan says, no, I don't want to give it to you. That's another conversation. What is somebody who's a leader of a terrorist group who theoretically cares about refugees doing, holding on to $3 billion of personal wealth that his sons want to claim for his estate? Not for humanitarian aid, not to go to the refugees in Gaza, not to go to the Gazan people, but to go into the pockets of his family. Who are these people, Senator? Really?
There is no question that Hamas is a vicious terrorist organization. It's not the Palestinian people. The war Israel's conducting is against Hamas, not against the Palestinians, because Hamas has committed again and again and again to repeat its October 7th attack. Its goal is genocide, to annihilate the Jewish people and eliminate the state of Israel. So making peace with Hamas, how does that happen? I think Netanyahu has a point. But at the same time, Netanyahu has to take steps to bring the hostages home, to agree to this kind of pause in the fighting that will enable humanitarian relief and perhaps some greater peace and stability. But at the same time, Israel must continue to defend itself against a terrorist organization that has one goal and only one goal, which is to annihilate the Jewish people and the state of Israel.
You know, Senator Blumenthal, yesterday I spoke to my family in Israel, and my family said to me, she said, it felt like October 8th yesterday. Okay, it was very raw, very bad. And all these strikes, and her kids aren't going to school today because the high school, the teachers aren't showing up, and all this other stuff. It's like catastrophic for the country. And I said to her, well, what is it about? And she told me that it's really about whether or not people should just say they're giving in to whatever Hamas wants and then do what they want the next day after they get the hostages back, or stand for these principles of saying, no, we're not going to let you have the Philadelphia corridor and all these other things. And a lot of people in Israel are like, just give Hamas whatever they want because we need to get our hostages back. And the day after we get them back, you know what? Maybe it's all bets are off. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, that's what's going on in Israel. That's That's the strife in Israel right now. That's what the protests were about.
And I understand well how Israel has lost patience and wants just a temporary solution, and that's what the agreement, in effect, would provide, not necessarily that all bets are off at the end of a certain number of weeks of pause, but I think that the staged plan offered by the administration offers that kind of relief, a path at least to dismantle Hamas. It has to be dismantled. It has to be defeated as a threat. That Philadelphia corridor or any other place like it that enables Hamas to continue to receive arms must be blocked. And the kind of staged agreement that I think Netanyahu has accepted and Israel has said it would agree to adopt has to be put on Hamas, and Hamas needs to be held to it and held accountable to a broader measure of accountability.
It's so awful, isn't it? That's why it could take hours. We're chatting with Senator Richard Blumenthal. Senator Blumenthal, just switching for Connecticut to a moment. You were there, and you were there to assist and help families assist this catastrophic floods that occurred out of nowhere in a lot of different Connecticut towns, from the Valley to a bunch of Fairfield County towns. And we are continuing to follow up on the story. Is there anything specific that you would like to let our listeners know who are hearing right now, who believe that their property was damaged in the flood, who have been displaced? Is there any specific piece of information that they need to know in order to apply for these $25,000 grants or any FEMA assistance?
What we need to do now, Lisa, is make sure that we get a declaration of major disaster from the federal government, which will unlock a lot of funding. And this week, we're going to be amassing the evidence and facts and documentation we need. So anyone who has suffered loss should make a report to the State Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. It's called DEMAS, and it's on the state's website. They can also report to the town, but that documentation is important. A lot of people may feel, oh, well, I suffered less damage than my neighbor, so I don't think I'll report. But the fact is, it's important to you and your neighbor that you report the damage, because it's a total amount that matters when we go to the federal government. So I've been all around these communities: Oxford, Seymour, Southbury, Middlebury, Danbury, most recently in Northford at a farm there on Friday, late afternoon, evening. And I've met with farmers as well as homeowners and small business people who've been displaced and lost everything, literally. And many are not covered by insurance. In fact, most are not covered by flood insurance.
I know. We've taken a lot of calls.
That's why we need to prioritize this program.
All right. So that's really important for people to know. So even if you don't think that you're one of the big people who were devastated by this, your incremental contribution to this could help Connecticut qualify to get this declaration of major disaster to get better relief. Got it. Very good. All right.
Exactly.
Well, Senator Blumenthal, I thank you as always for giving us of your time and your consideration of all of this. And we always appreciate you being on the show. I wish you could solve the problem in the Middle East. It doesn't sound like it's an easy fix, unfortunately.
And no one has ever said about the Middle East that there is an easy fix.
No way.
And centuries of very wise and smart people have tried to devise solutions. And, I will give the administration a lot of credit for persevering and trying to find a solution. And all of us, people of good faith and belief, have to be persevering as well. So I'm going to keep working on it. I've been in the Middle East twice since October 7th, and I will be going again shortly, I hope.
By the way, is Kamala Harris coming in? Is she dipping into some Connecticut coffers for some fundraising? I haven't seen it, but I imagine she will. They usually do. Anything you know on the horizon? Is she coming here?
I can't predict. I don't know of anything specific.
All right. All right, Senator Blumenthal, thank you so much for being on the show, as always.
Thank you.
All right. Senator Richard
Take care.
Blumenthal on the Lisa Wexler Show. We'll be right back.
The voice of Connecticut, WICC, now on 95.9 FM. The all-new WICC 600 and 95.9, your only source for local news and talk in Fairfield County. Listen on 600 AM and 95.9 FM or online at voiceofct.com. The voice of Connecticut, WICC 600 and 95.9.
Are you looking for a school for your child with a learning challenge? Winston Preparatory School is a leading school network for students with learning disabilities, including dyslexia, ADHD, and nonverbal learning disorders. Learn more about Winston Prep's highly individualized learning programs in Connecticut, Long Island, and New York that will help your child thrive. Visit winstonprep.edu for more information and schedule an in-person visit for a campus closest to you today.
Imagine knowing the sale value of your home in just 30 seconds without talking to an agent. You can, thanks to my friend Jonathan Carbuty's new innovative technology. Go to carbutyrealestate.com and click on What's My Home Worth? Then call Jonathan, and he'll give you a cash offer for your home. 203-980-6886 or go online to carbutyrealestate.com.
Sell your home smoothly when you call Carbuty. Go to carbutyrealestate.com.
Catch up with me, Lisa Wexler, by becoming a patron of the show. For only $6 a month, we give you bonus content, including behind-the-scenes photos, emails, and even a chance to sit in the studio with us to hear the show live. Become an insider and join our award-winning team.
Service, repair, or replace your AC or heating system. Go to BassoPHAC.com. Steve Basso Plumbing, Heating, and AC. Everything is better with Basso. BassoPHAC.com.
Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your car, home, motorcycle, commercial auto, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at Progressive.com.
She's keeping you up to date on what really matters. The Lisa Wexler Show. Only on WICC 600 and 95.9. The voice of Connecticut.
Hola, boa. Here we are, the voice of Connecticut, WICC 600, 95.9 FM, 203-333-9422 is our number. You can call me at 203-333-9422. And yes, that does stand for WICC, but I think it's easier to remember the numbers in a tune, because a lot of times we no longer have the number associated with the letters of the alphabet on the telephone. 203-333-9422 is our number. It's just us. We're going to hear from Martha later in the week, but it's just us up until noon, so you can call me if you got something on your mind. I have a bunch of things I want to tell you about. So, you know, I spent the weekend with Abby. Abby is going to be 7 months old next week. So she's not quite 7 months old, and she's sitting up-ish. Like, she sits up in her high chair, but then she leans a little bit. But she's getting there. And she's not quite crawling yet, but she's doing an awful lot of cat-cows, okay, for those of you who know, or cobra. She's not doing cat-cows. She's doing cobra because she's not up on her knees. I'm referencing yoga moves. She's doing that thing where she's on her belly and she's arching up with her back. And she isn't crawling, but she can be dangerous because she's clocking, so you can't leave her alone. And Joanna and Yotam went away for the weekend up to Algonquin, which they loved. They had the best time. But they left on Friday afternoon, and they picked her up on Monday. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, if anyone's counting. And it's been 31 years since I have had sole custodial responsibility for an infant. And it was a beautiful chance to get to know Abby. But this is what I want to tell you. So I had two babies. I had Jonathan and Joanna. And Jonathan came out, he was 5'9", he was a footling breech, emergency C-section. I was in the hospital for a week with a vertical incision, which those mommies know what I'm talking about. It meant I basically couldn't stand up straight for 6 weeks. And at 8 weeks, I got the shingles. So it was a rough, traumatic birth, and he was a rough baby. He had colic, he cried all the time. I didn't know how to soothe him. He was having 8 bottles of 8 ounces a day by the time he was 3 months, so much so that at 3 months his pediatrician said, wait, this kid is hungry, you better give him food. So, and he was a hard baby. He just was. He was a complicated, hard baby. And I remember my friend came from Arizona to be with me, and after 3 days she left, and she said, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. I don't know if I'll ever have kids. She ended up having kids, but it was rough. And then I had Joanna almost 6 years later, and she was the other pendulum swing. She was so easy. If everybody had a baby like her, they'd think there's nothing to it. This is easy peasy. She never cried. She was placid, smiling, happy. She never cried. I would look at her. I'd put her down. She didn't have transition issues. I'd put her in a crib. She didn't look back at me and cry. So I had two extremes, and now we have Abby. And Abby's in between. Abby's a serious baby. You know that at 6.5 months, she smiles all the time, but we haven't gotten her to laugh yet? She's a serious baby. And when she looks at you and she meets you, she looks at you first, and then she'll smile. But first, she takes a deep look with a frown. And when she's not happy, she lets you know it, and she cries and whines a little bit. We call it klexing. She's a klexing. She's whining a little bit. But she's also delicious and happy and sleeps well and transitions well and eats well. And she's in between the two babies. She's probably what they call a normal baby. I had one of each extreme. She's a normal, typical baby. And as Bill and I are gutting this out, looking hour to hour, is it time to feed her? How can we entertain her for the next hour? She's bored. She's this, she's that, getting her in and out of the car. And it was a long weekend. And so I really thought as the weekend was unfolding, I thought, this is hard. This is a young person's game. Not so young anymore. I think I'm young, but I'm not. And I thought, when are they coming back? And let me tell you what happened. And I very definitely bonded. And Bill was extremely helpful in the way that he could be. But as he said, I did 96% of the work. But he took care of the dogs, and he was wonderful. And he ran to the toy store, and we needed him to. And he did a lot of wonderful things. But it was mostly me in terms of the bathing and the feeding and the carrying and the up and down in a colonial house. And she's 18 pounds, in case you wanted to know. So my lower back is letting me know that I should tell you. And this is what I wanted to tell you. I was caught unawares because when parents picked her up, Joanna and Yotam, and they took her away at 2:00 yesterday, I felt like crying. I was so unexpectedly sad that she left. I thought I would be relieved. I thought I would exhale and say, okay, Bill, it's time for us now. Let's go to a movie. Let's go shopping. Let's put our feet up. Let's watch TV. Let's be happy. It's just us. This old canard about you give them back, right? That's what they say about grandparents. Oh, they're great. You can have them, but you give them back. I didn't feel that way. Bill said to me, I don't know why we gave her back. We shouldn't have given her back. I'm like, Bill, we had our turn. And I was so caught unawares about how unexpectedly sad I was to say goodbye to my little grandbaby. And I just wanted to share that with you because it was just a moment. And I'm not given to that much sensitivity or emotional ups and downs, but I felt like my house was dead. We had this beautiful nursery, and it came alive because Abby was in it. And the toys and the laundry and the bottles. And the dogs were so good. They were so appropriately wonderful, my Bijans. Let's go to Paul from Bethel. Paul, can you relate? Hello and welcome to the show today. Hi, Paul.
Oh, can I relate? We had two kids who were the easiest kids in the world. I mean, they slept late. They went to bed with no problems. They ate everything. We traveled everywhere. They would sleep anywhere we put them.
Wow.
We could put them under the table in a restaurant, and they would sleep.
Oh, my God.
They were so simple. And now they're married, and one of them has two kids. One has one with another on the way.
Congratulations.
And, thank you. And helping them out, we get the 1-year-old and the 4-year-old Thursday morning, and they go home Friday night.
Okay.
So we have them overnight every week.
Wow.
Occasionally the 3-year-old is in the mix, so usually not overnight. And it didn't take very long to figure out that we are no longer 30 years old.
Right.
It's brutal. And lucky for me, I still work. So my wife really does the majority, but when I get home, it's like, your turn. And it has its moments. Now, mostly it's all good. And as the 4-year-old's gotten older, she's very, very smart. She taught herself to read at 3.
Wow.
She's very headstrong. Yeah, she's very headstrong. She's tough. The 1-year-old is really a piece of cake. She's a happy baby. So, but last week or 2 weeks ago, my wife and I decided we should take the 3 and 4-year-old camping for 8 days in Mystic.
You're amazing. Wow.
No, I'm insane. That's what it is. It was mostly good, but not easy by any means. And the 3-year-old is a runner. So we go to the beach, and she just gets up and runs.
Oh, boy.
And so then we running after her, and she's fast. And I finally catch up to her, I grab her arm, and she's like, no, Poppy, no, Poppy. She's kicking sand at me. She wants to go talk to everybody.
I
she
love
has no stranger danger. She's so funny, but she's so physical and so gregarious. So by the end of the 8 days, we figure we need a vacation. So we got to relax.
I got to ask you, Paul, where did you go in Mystic for camping? Where did you go?
We go to, there's a Sun RV resort. Used to be called Seaport Campground. We've been going there for years. And it's just over the line from Mystic. It's in North Stonington.
And you have your own RV?
Yeah, we've got a 32-foot trailer that we pull. So,
wow.
The girls have bunk beds. We have our own room, and it's got everything in it. Yeah, so it's nice. And they have a pool there, and they have miniature golf. So there's stuff to do and a playground for the kids.
Where's the camping? What am I missing? How are you camping? You're in a beautiful RV. You're inside. You got a pool. You're at a resort. Where's the camping part? Is there a tent someplace?
No. Our we pull a trailer, a 32-foot trailer with our truck.
Wow.
So that's what we sleep in. Everything's in that. So
amazing.
It's a better level of camping from tents, which we used to do when our kids were new. And then we've slowly graduated up to what we have now. And we enjoy it. We just don't get enough time to do it every year, but we try to go at least once or twice.
I think it's so wonderful that you're so involved in your grandchildren's lives. It's so great for them, but it's going to keep you young, Paul. That's what it does. It keeps you young to be around young people. That's what it does.
I don't know. Sometimes it seems like my hair is getting grayer faster. I don't know.
You just have to watch your lower back. Paul, thanks for the call. We're going to be right back. We're going to be right back with more of the Lisa Wexler Show here on WICC 600 AM, 95.9 FM. We'll be right back.
The Lisa Wexler Show podcast is available 24/7. Follow wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Are you a skilled welder, pipe fitter, journeyman industrial electrician, or warehouse worker, forklift driver who's seeking full-time opportunities, benefits, advancement, and a safe working environment? It's time you get on board with Onboard USA. For 44 years, Onboard USA has been supporting communities by providing labor support to businesses while extending white glove service to their employees and clients. Let Onboard USA put their 44 years experience to work for you. Visit onboardusa.com and click careers to get started. onboardusa.com.
Selling your home is a numbers game. The more potential buyers who see it, the greater the opportunity to sell. And when your home is listed on Smart MLS, more than 21,000 realtors see it, and so do all their buyers. Suddenly, the number of people looking at your home starts to grow by a lot. More realtors sharing your listing, more people seeing your home, more offers coming in, and maybe even more cash in your pocket. Smart move, right? Ask your realtor. Is my house on Smart MLS? Smart MLS, the smart way to sell your home.
It's a jungle out there. If you're on the hunt for more leads and more revenue, you need to work with the experts at Ferocious Digital in Connecticut. If your website, social media, and online presence isn't leading the pack, you could fall prey to the competition. Ferocious Digital's experts will take your business to its peak performance without the high cost of an in-house team. Get a free website and digital marketing audit at getferociousdigital.com. Getferociousdigital.com.
Madison Pharmacy, your family-owned, no-wait pharmacy. No recorded messages, no wait time on the phone. Prescriptions filled in 5 minutes. Free delivery, free consultations, and walk-in vaccinations. 4180 Madison Ave, Trumbull, or TrumbleMadisonPharmacy.com.
Now, back to the Lisa Wexler Show on the voice of Connecticut, WICC 695.9.
And welcome back to the Lisa Wexler Show. You can call me at 203-333-9422. Call me at 203-333-9422. You're listening to WICC 600 AM and 95.9 FM. We're going to stick with the conversation around grandparents for just a little bit longer. Dottie from Bridgeport. Hi, Dottie. Welcome to the show.
This call is so important that I did. This is my once a week call.
Yes.
I know I only get once, but the
not just you,
grandchildren are
everybody.
so special. I had 5 grandchildren in 3.5 years, and this is how this was accomplished. My beautiful daughter Allison had the first grandchild November 21st. The year was 2000. 20 months later, she blessed us with fraternal twins.
Oh, my.
My great-great-grandmother, Lisa, had one husband die. She had twins with him. Another husband, twins. It skipped me and my sister Susie.
Wow.
And Susie said, God bless Allison. She was the only one who could. Allison was scared. She said to me, oh, Mom, she said, she's only going to be 20 months old.
Yeah.
I said, God wouldn't give you this blessing, Allison, if he didn't think you could handle it. Guess who had Cabbage Patch twin dolls when I went into Westport when she was a little? Me, a boy and a girl. Then the next door neighbors eventually were twin boys. So see how God was preparing her?
Wow.
Then, okay, so the first one is November 21st, 2000. Not even quite a year later, November 13th, I get my first grandson from my beautiful son and daughter-in-law. So there's the 3, right? 1, 2, 3. No, there's 4. Then Megan comes into the world May 11th, and the year is 2004. So in 3.5 years, I was blessed. And I remember thinking before I had all these, oh, I just hope I have one, Lisa. Wouldn't it be nice to just even have one? So this is, and then what you said about when they come, especially when the 3 of them come.
Wow.
My mother was a great-grandmother, and my brother said, Dottie always prepared us, Mom, that they were all coming. It was like a whirlwind.
I bet.
And everybody had a baby to hold because there were 3 babies. And then, God bless my mother, she never smiled as much as when she held that first great-grandchild.
Yeah, my mother feels the same way about Abby. Oh, does she cry? And actually, Abby's going back to Florida in October for my mom's 90th. Thank you,
how wonderful.
Dottie. Yeah.
And you know what, Lisa? It is the biggest blessing. And before you had a grandchild, I don't know if I called in, but I told someone, it was a stranger, and not knowing that her daddy had been in the hospital for 8 months. When she went to go to the ladies' room, her husband said to me, and these were strangers, he said to me, you are a blessing. He said, you distracted her, and when you found out she was going to be a grandmother, you know the first thing I said to her? You're never going to stop smiling. Now think about it. Have you stopped smiling since Abby was born?
No, that's true.
No.
That's true.
Other than the story we heard this weekend, but other than that, because I was heartbroken for that mother.
Yeah.
She is the bravest, most incredible mother. I
Unbelievable.
only hope I could ever, because it happened to my grandmother, and she never totally recovered. She lost her firstborn child at 19, and my daddy, who became a nurse, was the first male nurse at St. Vincent's, told me when his brother died, he was 16, that his mother years later had a stroke and then another one. Her heart was broken. But what this woman is telling us in 2024 is that we hold ourselves up because Hamas is not going to be the winner. They're not. You know, right and wrong, light, darkness, I don't care how everybody wants to explain it. I am spiritual. I'm telling you, they are not going to be the winner. This is not going to go down well for them. And a lot more people are going to suffer and unfortunately die.
Daddy, I got to run. I got to run. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you for the call. We've got so many people who want to be on. You're listening to the Lisa Wexler Show. Let's go to Trish from Shelton. Hi, Trish.
Hi, Lisa. I am also a first-time Grammy of a 7-month-old, and she's delicious.
Oh, really? Wait. When is the birthday of your 7-month-old? When?
January 24th.
Okay, so we're February 6th, so they're just weeks apart. And a little girl? Do I get a first name? What's her name?
Her name is Maeve Riley Sharon. She's very, very Irish. She's got beautiful tones to her hair and blue eyes.
Oh.
But recently, we watch her every so often. but I had a big piece of cardboard that came from a shipping, so I popped holes in it and I tied ribbon in it, and poked holes in it. So with her little tiny fingers, all she does is pull the ribbons out, and on the backside, I pull them back in. I'm not lying. It kept her occupied for almost 25 minutes.
Oh,
and then
that's
she sits there and
amazing.
looks like, where did the ribbon go? She hasn't looked behind the cardboard yet, but I probably will not buy another toy, and I'll start inventing things with toilet paper rolls. But she's delicious, and it's the best in the whole wide world. Congratulations.
And so, Trish, has she ever slept over where it's only been you responsible for her?
No, we
not
have
yet.
Not done the overnight
Not.
yet.
Okay.
I'm
yeah, that's a whole different level, right? I mean, that's like a whole different thing. Yeah.
I'm absolutely afraid of just the solid foods. It's like, you better try it first because nothing's going to happen on my watch.
I know. Well, we did applesauce and oatmeal, and we also, for the morning, and we did some yogurt, and she loved that yogurt, and she loved getting her fingers into it. Oh, it was so much fun. It was so much fun. Oh.
Well, congratulations.
You too.
I'm glad I get to share it with you.
Yeah, you too, Trish. You too. Let's go to Ron from Trumbull. Hi, Ron. Welcome. Hello.
Hey, how are you? I have a different spin on this. I used to commute to New York City daily for any number of years, and I kind of missed out on the high school years of my own daughters. Well, I retired, and I was able to. Actually, I started working from home, and I was able to enjoy my grandkids in their high school years.
Oh, that's
participated in sports and all kinds of stuff like that, and. When the babies were young, since I couldn't smell, I was in charge of changing the dirty diapers too.
Were you really? Good for you, Ron.
Yeah,
good for
'cause
you.
I couldn't smell.
That's amazing.
I didn't
My husband runs away from anything uncomfortable like that. What do you mean, dirty diaper? Forget about it. Never.
No, it was that was my job. I felt like I was participating in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, no, that's a big thing. That's a big thing. I said to Abby, you have a present for me? You have a present for Grandma? I was all excited. I'm all excited. You know, I really think that the world can be explained by plumbing. Don't you think so, Ron? Indigestion can explain so many failed diplomatic attempts. No question about it.
First time I held my older daughter when we were in the hospital, she took a dump on me.
Oh, that's lovely. That's great. That's a great visual for us here on the radio, Ron. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you called in. Thank you, hon. 203-333-9422. We'll be right back with more of the Lisa Wexler Show. We'll catch you up. We are the voice of Connecticut here, WICC 600 AM and 95.9 FM.
Get the best parts of the Lisa Wexler Show right now. Follow now on your favorite podcast app.
Julia owed the IRS thousands.
I was paralyzed with fear.
Then
I heard a commercial for Optima Tax Relief.
Optima Tax Relief is the leading tax resolution firm. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and experts in the Fresh Start Initiative.
Optima Tax Relief settled my IRS tax bill.
Call Optima now for a free consultation.
It was amazing.
Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief.
At Maritime Chevrolet of Fairfield, we believe your EV experience should be easy. That's why we've made our no surprises promise to you. Whether you're deciding if an EV is right for you or just learning about EVs, Maritime Chevrolet has you covered. Experience high performance, wide open watts, and exclusive EV benefits for members of our Chevy family. So skip the gas station and charge ahead with confidence. Come drive the electric Silverado, Equinox, and Blazer, or ask us for an at-home test drive at maritimechevy.com.
Where Connecticut comes to get informed. The Lisa Wexler Show on the voice of Connecticut, WICC 600 and 95.9.
Hola, bola. Welcome back to the show. 203-333-9422 is our number. You can call me at 203-333-9422. We're very excited. We got a big day today. If you're tuning in from 95.9 FM, here we are, WICC. We've only been around 98 years or so, give or take a few months. And welcome to the party. We've got Melissa Sheketoff in the morning from 5 a.m. to 10. Oh, She does the best show. And then I come on from 10 to noon. And then after that, I go to Westport, where I am the probate judge for the Westport Weston District. And our hearings typically start around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We hope to have exciting news for you, to have a new local host immediately after me from 12 to 2. When we have that person, we will be happy to introduce you. And then from 2 to 6, we have Connecticut Today. So we've got the vast majority of our day already local news. Eric Erickson peeps in from 12 to 2 with us. 203-333-9422 is our number. And then in the evenings, we very often do a replay of the best half hour of Melissa's show and my show and Paul's show, unless we aren't preempted by other local programming. So this is WICC, and if you haven't discovered us already, welcome, because we have been part and parcel of your community for a very long time, for decades, with a deep and wide commitment to news and information that you can use to improve your life, to shape your perspective. I know I'm on the radio every day with a mission to have conversations that change the world. It's only a small goal, but that's what I hope to do. 203-333-9422. We've been talking about a whole bunch of things. Let's go to Ken from Bridgeport. Hi, Ken. What's on your mind today? Hello.
Hey, Lisa. Good morning. I just want to say switch to the Fox help, because when I'm in the Weston, Norwalk area on the AM, I was never able to listen to you. But now it's coming in clear when I'm up in that area, which I was just about an hour ago.
Oh, I'm so delighted. So it helped you that I announced that we're on 95.9 FM, because then you found us on 95.9 FM and it's a clear signal? That's great.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly what I did. Yeah, so I can listen to your show from the whole time.
Oh, I'm so happy, Ken. Thank you so much for doing so. Are you in a truck? Are you driving around? What are you doing?
Yeah, in the truck, yep.
Yeah, fantastic. Good. Oh, I'm so glad you told us. I will, believe me, whoever's not listening right now in management to the station, I will make sure they know. That's great. Thank you so much. Perfect.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye.
Thanks, Ken. 203-333-9422. You can call me at 203-333-9422. Okay. So I just want to recap a little bit. If you're joining us right now, we are available on 95.9 FM. If, like Ken, you're in a region where, for whatever reason, the signal is 600 AM. But also what can happen is you might be listening to us on 95.9 FM, and the signal can be dippy-whippy, and 600 AM is a massive signal. You know, I heard it a week ago. I am not kidding you. A week ago today, to Windsor, New Jersey, East Windsor, New Jersey. I put on the radio, AM 600, and I drove all the way over the GW Bridge on the thruway past the Stu Leonard's of Ridge Hill in the Bronx, because that's the way I went. And then I went, and I think East Windsor is something like exit 9 on the Jersey Turnpike. It was 128 miles away from my house in Westport, and I heard it into the parking lot. So it's a massive signal. Okay, listen, if you're in Fairfield right now, you're going to want to listen up. You're not going to be happy about this. There has been a proposal to build a 63-unit affordable housing development in the heart of downtown Fairfield. The people who look at this, who care about this for the TP&Z, which is the acronym for the Planning and Zoning Commission in Fairfield, decided to vote it down. They didn't think it was in keeping with the character of downtown. They thought that it would mar the downtown. They thought that it would have a deleterious effect on parking and other criteria that they looked at. And so they turned it down. And the builder appealed, and the builder won. And this is the second time in a short amount of time that Fairfield may be transformed as a result of builders winning on appeal, with judges who are sympathetic to the arguments about the need for affordable housing and their interpretation of 830G, which is a statute that essentially puts the burden of proof on the Planning and Zoning Commission to show why the housing shouldn't be allowed, as opposed to you and I, if we're not doing affordable housing, we have to go up before these boards and commissions and show why it should be allowed. And with that burden of proof shifting, there has been a tremendous amount of affordable housing that has been built that people feel has not been in keeping with the character of neighborhoods, but has been allowed under 830G. So if you're living in Fairfield right now, you really want to know this. It's at 15 Umpqua Road. The developer appealed the Fairfield Commission's decision a month ago after it unanimously denied this. Now, when you get a unanimous denial, you need to say to yourself, hold on. This isn't about politics. This isn't about local Republicans versus Democrats looking to make a political point. This is about the fact that all of them felt that this development shouldn't go forward. When you've got something unanimous, you got to understand that that means that political considerations are beside the point. The commission rejected the building proposal for a multitude of reasons. They said there was an overwhelmed sewage system, a danger of increased flooding, a narrow parking driveway, a lack of parking spaces, and poor visibility for vehicles leaving the building. But the Judge Hartford Superior Court Judge Stephen Frazzini, wrote a 74-page decision saying that, I'm sorry, under 830G, this doesn't cut it. The risk of harm to the public interest that the commission was entitled to protect do not clearly outweigh the need for affordable housing. And he ordered the commission to approve the applications. He said, however, you do have to get additional soil testing results, an updated architectural drawing, and this is really something, a revised zoning amendment application from the developer. In other words, he's allowing the developer to go ahead and amend the zoning regulations for its own one development. We used to call that spot zoning, and it was a big no-no. But apparently this judge thinks it's okay. So, and I'll tell you how much the judge thinks it's okay. The developer originally wanted to put in a zoning amendment to the code that would allow for more of these 830G residential applications to be okayed. But Frazzini, the judge, ordered the developer to revise the zoning text amendment so it only applies to the Umpqua Road property instead of an entire zoning district. I wonder if that's a ground for appeal for the town of Fairfield. So I used to be on the Planning and Zoning Commission for Westport, and I was also on the Zoning Board of Appeals for Westport. And also I'm a lawyer. And there is a general precept of law that says that if you're going to apply to change zoning, you're not allowed to apply to change it only for your piece of real estate, because zoning theoretically applies to a larger neighborhood than that, a larger area, region. And this idea of spot zoning has been disfavored by courts for decades because it's basically saying you want an exception to the law to apply for your piece of real estate. Well, that's not fair to everybody else. That's the idea as to why spot zoning has not been a favored proposition. But this judge is saying, go back, rewrite your application in front of the TP&Z zoning text and make it only apply for your lot. And that's something that TP&Z has to approve according to my 74-page decision. I find that to be fascinating. And again, I just wonder whether or not that's a ground for appeal and whether it would be a successful one. Who knows? Fairfield must file a notice to the court within 60 days reporting the developer has fulfilled the orders for soil testing, architectural drawings, and revised zoning text amendment, according to Frazzini's decision. The court will order the commission to approve the developer's applications for the project at that point, the decision states. And he did say that the court may hold more hearings if more time is necessary, or if the soil test results are not satisfactory. So the Town Planning and Zoning Commission, the TP&Z, met on Friday to discuss the case via WebEx with Jim Baldwin, a former town attorney who was representing the commission, but the meeting took place in executive session, which means it was closed to the public. Anyway, if you live in Fairfield, you just want to be paying attention to this because this is a decision that's going to impact the downtown. 203-333-9422 is our number. And in the meantime, altogether, speaking about the issues of affordable housing here in Connecticut, there were a bunch of Connecticut tenants who were demanding something called green social housing, a type of affordable housing that is both environmentally friendly and community controlled. They were specifically upset about what's going on in Bridgeport. They believe that access to safe and affordable housing should be a basic human right. And that is another movement that is going on. And in another story I wanted to let you know, this is really interesting. Connecticut Post Jamila Young reporting that there is a brand new app that will let you report potholes in your own town if your town is part of this app. The app is called SeeClick Fix. SeeClick, F as in Frank, IX. It was founded in New Haven by Ben Berkowitz in 2008 and acquired by Civic Plus in 2019. And it will allow you to report an issue that you come across in your town, whether you think it's a job for your public works or something else for another town department. If you look at this SeeClick Fix, apparently it's used by every state except Alaska. And in Connecticut, here's who was signed up. Enfield, Middletown, New Britain, and Windsor. But nothing that I can see here yet in Fairfield County. This is about if you're driving around and you notice a pothole, a broken sidewalk, a road that needs finished paving, something that could be a nuisance or a hazard, you can report this on your app. You know, I've always wanted to report speeders. We've spoken about this, right? That's the only way I've ever wanted to be Big Brother in any way. When somebody zips past me, I want to tell somebody up ahead, hey, that guy deserves a ticket. He just sideswiped me. But there's no way to do it yet. But this is different. It's about, it says, oh, and the other thing you can report is blighted properties. Your town may have a blight statute. It may have a blight regulation or ordinance. People report playground damage. They report portable toilets that aren't working. When someone submits a report, it is, quote, assigned to the appropriate party. A supervisor gets notified. The town manager gets notified. And the resident who files the report can keep track of the status as well. If you live in Windsor, the site has 120 reports listed, including multiple reports of mowing and trimming issues. Uh-oh. Are you going to tattletale on your neighbor now if they haven't mowed their lawn in time? Listen, I'm no mow May. You can tattle on me all you want. I'm not mowing for 4 weeks. Streetlight issues and potholes. You can see how this could be dangerous. We could do an entire radio segment on how nosy neighbors can become really obnoxious, but also, on the other hand, how this could be very useful. It's called SeeClick Fix. SeeClick Fix. And again, I don't see any towns in Fairfield County yet who have subscribed, a few in New Haven County. But people claim that they use it to report potholes, broken street lamps, uneven sidewalks. And you know what the nice thing about it is? You know, it can avoid a potential negligence claim for the person who slips and falls on something and then sues the town. By fixing it ahead of time, by preventing it, you can end up saving the town thousands of dollars in proceeds that they end up paying to people who get hurt as a result of things the town is supposed to be fixing. I'm Lisa Wexler. Thanks for joining us today. We'll be back behind the mic tomorrow with another great show. You can listen to our podcast if you missed any part of the show at any time by going to lisawexler.com and pressing podcast or finding us on Apple. We've got Paul Pacelli coming up from 2 to 6 with Connecticut Today. Thank you, Justin and Melissa.
WICC Bridgeport, WFOX Southport, WEBE HD2 Westport, WPLR HD2 New Haven, Fairfield University graduate and professional.